Hello and welcome to the mobile application development course using Flutter. So in this video we'll be going to start the Flutter application development. So in order to create a new project, we'll be using the Visual Studio Code. So launch the Visual Studio Code IDE, and then in order to create the new project we have to go to the command palette. So you can view it from the view menu, and then the very first option is the command palette, or we can have the shortcut control shift P. So if we press control shift P, the command palette will appear, and then we need to type in some hint for the command. If we just write it down, the flutter, so the related commands are being shown. So flutter new project, just click this command. Then the type of the project that you want to create, that is right now application, and then just specify the folder where we want to store our projects that are being created here. So I will be happy to create that one with the within the documents folder. So I select this folder and then type in the name for the newly created project. So let's say I'm just writing down the first app and then hit enter. So right after that one, the Visual Studio Code will be creating our new project structure directory. So a number of directories will be available in front of you. You will see these are the list of the files and the folder which are created. And then this is one of the default file which is available in the Flutter project, that is main.dart. So all the code will be within this file. And if we go into the this particular directory structure, we'll see number of folders are there. So .idea, it is related with the Visual Studio. It is related with the Android Studio. This Android folder will be holding all the necessary files that are used for developing or building the Android project. iOS, if we are developing for the iOS, that code will be inside this folder. So within this structure there are the two of the important directories or the files. So very first folder that is important here is the lib folder that specifies the library, and within this one all of our dot code will be there with all the files having extension dart. So one of the file is available here, main.dart, and all the dot code is here. So if we need to create some more files, so we'll place them within this folder. And then another folder or another file that we will be going to change something is this particular file, that is publication specification, which is written in YAML language. So this file contains the number of descriptions related to this particular Flutter project. So as the name of the project, the description, the version of this one, and the SDK of the Flutter. And then if it is using some dependencies, we'll be writing down here. And if that is using some fonts, some custom fonts, will be uncomment these different font settings, and according to the custom fonts we will write it down some names and file names there. And if we are using some images within this project, so we'll be importing or specifying those assets within this asset section of this pubspec.yaml file. So concluding this file, this particular file will be holding all the settings related to the Flutter project. So this is the complete project. So we should remember or keep it in mind one thing, that within this entire structure, project structure, there are two different locations where we will be writing down our custom code or we'll be changing something there. The very first one is the lib folder and pubspec.yaml file. And sometimes we need to go in to some other files just like the Android folder and do some necessary stuff which is required whenever some native things are to be done. So otherwise we are good with this. So we first go into this main.dart file, we will see that a bunch of code is written there within the Dart language. So that is actually being default generated whenever you create a new project. In order to understand how we will be writing down the code, so first select the entire code within this main.dart and then just delete everything there. And what we need to do is within the Android project, so within every Android project, there should be one special function which should be mentioned or defined there, that is called as the main method or the main function. So that is being written in this particular syntax, void main brackets, and then the code will go here. So this main function is the entry point of this particular project, means the entire project will start from this particular method or function. As we have seen, that main function is also necessary when we are writing down the code in C++ or the Java, because it specifies the entry point of the particular application or the project. So that is it. That is one thing necessary that is need to be included in main.dart file. Now the program will start execution from the main function. But now what it will do when it is executing the main function, we have to write it down some code here. So we need to have one function call that is named as run app. So run app is one of the function that we need to call in, and the function call will be just like this. We will have run app, some brackets, and then semicolon, so it will be executing. But the run app function is expecting one of the argument. If you see the tooltip here, void run app widget app, so it is expecting one of the widget, especially the root widget, that is need to be rendered, and the run app function will just execute the app that we want to execute whenever this main function executes. So that app will be constructed with the help of a widget tree, and every widget tree will be having a root widget. So we need to provide that root widget that should be displayed here. So, and the root widget should also be a particular widget. So, but this run app function is not the part of the dot language. It is not available in the default packages. So it is available in one of the special package. So that's why in order to use this function, we need to import one of the package. We need to write down the import statement and a package, and that package should be, so package, and then we will have flutter. So we need to import this particular package, that is import package flutter and material.dart. So this run app method is available in within this particular package there, so that's why we need to import there. Now one more thing that we need to do here is we need to provide the root widget within this run app method. So let me just increase the font size so that it is somehow more clearly visible. So now here in the run app method, we need to provide a widget that should be displayed whenever this function executes. So the very basic widget that we'll be creating within this run app is the text widget. And this is how we are going to create a text widget. So text widget is again an object of the text class, and that is again a particular widget class. So within this text widget, we need to provide some positional or the named arguments here. So by the named argument, we mean that the argument that will be specifying will have the name, that is which argument we will need to specify, and its corresponding value. So in the text widget, we need to first of all specify what string it is to be displayed. Let's say we want to display this particular string within the text widget. And then if you need to specify any other attribute or the argument, just place a comma here and then just provide that particular argument. Now one thing that is to be mentioned here, that this text widget, whenever we use it, the text widget outside a material app widget, we need to provide one more additional parameter or the argument. So there is another particular widget called as material app that will specify the the design or the design system or design properties of the entire app. If we place this text component within the material app, we do not need to specify anything else. But if we are using it without the material app, then we need to specify one of the property called as a text direction, and then we need to specify the value as text direction dot. So let's say if you see that text direction dot, we can provide left to right or right to left. So by default we should have left to right. So this property is mandatory whenever we are using the text widget without the material app. Otherwise it is acceptable if we use it within the material app. Now this is how this particular argument is called as a positional argument, and its position does matter. So this text that should be displayed within the text widget as a string, so it is the first argument, it should be the first argument. And if we provide the argument in this particular form, the name of the argument, then colon, and then the value of the argument, these are called as the named arguments. And the named argument, within the name argument, the position doesn't matter. I mean, whether you write down the text direction first, or maybe there is another property called a style. So the position of those arguments doesn't matter in case of the named arguments, but in case of the positional arguments, the position does matter. If it comes first, it should be the first. And one more rule that is followed by many programming languages is that if a function receives positional argument and the named arguments, then first of all the positional arguments should be specified, and then after all the positional arguments are specified, then you will start specifying the named arguments there, and there the order doesn't matter. So this is how we have just implemented the very first application, and it's doing nothing special, just it will be when this will be executed, so it will see a main.dot file. Within that one, it will just come up to the main function, and when this executes, when it starts, it will make a call to a special function called as run app. So what the run app does, it will just inflate or display the widget on the screen, and in order to display something on the screen, we need to specify what is that something. So that will be within these arguments there. And how will specify something to be displayed in the form of a widget tree. So run app expects a root widget element as the argument there. So we have specified here. Now in order to run this application, what we need to do, first of all, go into the right bottom corner and then just select on which device we need to test our code. If we need to test our code as a Windows application, we'll select Windows Desktop. If we need to test it as a web application, we may select any web browser. And if we need to test it as an iOS or any other Android device, we need to select a specific emulator. So we had already created one Android emulator, the Nexus 5X. So just click on this particular emulator and then just wait it around, and it will be launching the emulator that we have already created. So this is one of the Android emulator where this application will be executed. And as we see here, so this emulator is behaving exactly as an Android smartphone would have been. So once the emulator has been launched, what we need to do is just click this particular button to start debugging, or we may also go into the run and then click this one, start debugging, or we can press the F5 button. So just click on this one. So as we have clicked on this button, what will happen is it will start building your project. So as we are building for the Android, so it will be using the Android SDK from the Android Studio, and it will build using the Gradle library. So when you are building for the very first time, it will take some time. So you need to be patient around until it is building the project. So we'll just wait it around until it is being built, and then you will see that the this particular application will be visible on our screen. So here we see that our application has been built and that is visible on the screen, but what we see on the screen is just a black screen, and we have inflected this particular text widget hello flutter. If we carefully see below this status bar, we have text being displayed hello flutter, but as the text size is very small, so that's why we are unable to see that one out. So in order to increase the size so that we can visualize that, what we can do is within this text widget we can change certain property. So in order to change the style or something related to this style, we need to specify the property called as the style, and then the value that will provide is the text style object. And what we are saying, the style of this text component is another text style object, and within this text style object will specify its own properties. So the text style has its own, so this text widget was having its own properties like text direction and style, but style is another object. So there is text style, so text style itself will have some other properties. So if we do not know what different properties are associated with text style, what we can do is just click within that widget and press Control space. So these are the different properties that can be specified for the text style. So one that we are searching for is this font size. So if we just click font size, and then we can specify, let's say 30.0 and then comma. Then if we save it out and reload this particular application, and then again just wait it out and then see. So here we see that now somehow it is visible, the hello flutter text there. So what if we can increase somehow increase the size more than that one, and then again restart or reload that particular application. So now it is quite visible, hello flutter text is being displayed there. So we can also specify some other attributes of this style. So just like we can specify the color, and how we can specify the values. So we can say colors dot the name of the color. So this is how we can specify the color. This is one way of specifying the color. So this colors class will have some constant values that will be having some color values there. So right after this one, again reload this application or restart, and then we'll see that the color of this application, the text widget has been changed to green. So in this case we have seen that when we create when we run the run app function, and we have just provided one widget as the text widget there, just a black screen appears and over that one. So this doesn't look very good as the user interface. So we may change that one out later on, but just right now just focus on these different properties and see how we have constructed or structured this particular widget there. So we see that within this run app method, the text widget is there, and all these are the text direction and the style. These are the properties associated with the text widget. And the style itself is taking another object that is of text style, and text style itself is having some other properties, the font size and the color. Now these font size and color, these are the named arguments. This means that the position of these argument doesn't matter. So if we specify the color before the font size, just like this, the color and then the font size, so there will be no any difference in the result. So it will be having the same result there. So the location of the named arguments doesn't matter there. So this is how we are just running our first basic application. But again, now come back to the point where we are seeing said that just a black screen appears and something is displayed there. Now, within most of the Android applications, you might have seen that the structure of the different applications somehow looks similar. Just like in most of the application, you have an application bar at the top. On the bottom, you will have some menu or the tabs there, and within the center, you will have all the contents of the application. So, in order to construct that type of a structure, we may use two other special widgets there. So, one of the widget is the material app widget, and then another widget is the scaffold widget. So these two particular special widgets are just providing some built-in features that we may use in order to construct some basic user interfaces. The material app is just providing use the design system. Now, what we mean by the design system is just it is the set of the rules for designing the user interface. So there might be different type of the design rules, just like what should be the text size of different text components within the user interface, what should be the padding, what should be the spacing, and what should be the color of different widgets, different buttons there. So anything related to the design of the widgets is specified by the design system known as the material design within the Android. So material design is the design system for the Android, and similarly the another design system, the Cupertino, is for the iOS application. So material design is provided by or specified by the Google, but it doesn't mean that we cannot use with any other product other than the Google. So we may use it. So in order to use the material design rules, so what if we create a button and we are saying that even without specifying any color or the text size there, by default it should have some default color and appearance there, and we should follow some design rules there. So we should use this material app. So it will be specifying the design system, just the color and the font size and related to that one. So we'll use this material app. Then within that one, we'll use another widget called as the scaffold. The scaffold is just like a gray structure of the building. So it is just specifying that what the structure of the application or user interface would be. Material app is specifying the design. The scaffold is specifying the structure. Means what different components will be available in the user interface and where each component will be specified. What should be the size of each component there, width and height. So as we had discussed earlier that in most of the application we have seen the app bar at the top, the button navigation bar at the bottom, in the middle we will have some widgets, some contents of the application, and might be there is one icon at the left top there, and we click in there, some app drawer appears with certain options, and we may have seen that in the title bar and the app bar we have some text title, and on the right side you have some action buttons or icon buttons there. So how the user interface is structured, where each component is placed here. So in most of the application this structure somehow is similar. So in order to specify that structure, we'll be using this scaffold activity, the widget there. So these two are the special type of the widgets that we'll be using right on. So now just first of all again come back to the previous state where we had just this main function and the run app method there. Now instead of just writing in the text widget there, we'll first use the class called as the material app. So this specifies that we are going to use some material design. Now within this material app there is one property called as the title, and then it receives an string type of the argument. So this title, let's say we are saying the flutter demo. Now this is the text that will appear whenever this app will be installed. So as you have seen, if you go to the all application, you will see an icon, and below that icon the name of this application would be there. So that name is specified by this title here of the material app. Then within the material app, we have another property called as the home. Now home specifies that what other widget is there, especially what is the root widget on which this material style will be applied there. So what we do, we just create a particular application as a widget tree, and then we provide that thing as the home to this particular material app. Or we may say that what is the very first screen that should appear, it will be the home screen there. So within the home we will specify some other widgets that will be structuring that particular user interface. So now we are going to use one of the widget called as scaffold. Now scaffold, so what we have seen up till now, we're using the material app, then having one property title, and then home property. But within the home property we can have the scaffold. So we are defining the structure, and then within this one you will have some other properties. If we press control space, we will see number of properties are there. We have the app bar that at the top we can specify. We can have a app drawer, we can have a bottom sheet, we can have some other type of the widgets or properties there. So we may have a floating action button on the right bottom corner. We can have some more properties there, just like a body. So within the scaffold, now we are defining the structure. So let's say we want to define an app bar. So app bar, where it should be, where it should be located. So scaffold is already specifying, it already has some specified attributes that if we provide an app bar here, where it should be located. So it is already defined in scaffold. So we need to construct an app bar. So how we are going to construct app bar? So we need to create the object of the app bar. So material app, home is the scaffold. Within a scaffold app bar we are defining. Now within the app bar again we may have different properties there. So if we look it around within the app bar of different Android application, we might see on the left side there will be a menu type of the icon in the left top. Thereafter some text title will be there. On the right side you will have some icons there, just like search icon and something there. So those icons are called as the actions on the right side, and the text that is being displayed is the title with the help of title property. And then the icon to the left, whenever we click it there, and then the app drawer appears. Or maybe if we have multiple screens and when we move from one screen to another screen, you will have a back arrow there. So that back arrow before the title, that particular thing is described by this property called as the leading. So right now we are just using this simple property called as the title. The title of the app bar. Now just make sure this title is different and this one is different. So this title is expecting the string type of the data, but this title is expecting a widget. So now let's say in this case we want to create a text there, and we are providing a certain text there. Let's say first app. So see, this title is receiving a text widget with the string first app, and then this is the title that will appear below the logo of the app when it is installed and being selected from all application. Now, one thing more to mention here is as the text widget we are using within the material app, now we do not need to provide this particular property that we were already earlier using it out the text direction. So we may skip that one out because we are using it within the material app there. So app bar, and then another property that we are defining here is body. So scaffold will specify the app bar, what should be in the app bar we have constructed there. And then in the center portion is the body portion where all the contents will be there. Now within this one we are going to create that particular text component that we earlier created with the hello flutter text. And then within this one we are specifying the style property, and then for the style we are having the text style. So text style would be there one object, and within the text style we'll specify the font size as 30.0 or maybe 40.0, and then color as colors dot green. So this is how we have provided the properties there. So now if we see the structure of this app, we have the main function. It is calling the run app. So we are providing a root widget as the material app. We'll be using the material design system. So title of the app that will appear below the icon. Then one of the property of the material apps is the home. So whatsoever the content which will be present within the material app is with the home. Within the home we are using the scaffold widget that will be structuring the complete user interface. So within the scaffold, the very first property that we are specifying is the app bar that will be created using this class app bar. An app bar has its own property title. So we are providing a title as a text widget there, which will appear within the app bar. And the app bar itself will be placed at the top there as specified by the scaffold. Then the scaffold will also define one more portion of the user interface, that is the body portion, the center portion there. So in the center portion, you can place any widget there. So let's say we are providing a text widget with this text, and we are providing a style with the font size of 40 and then color of the green there. So once we have specified this particular structure, now let's reload this application and see how that appears on the emulator screen. Now if we see here, now the interface is totally different there. So now we do not see a black screen, but we see a full-fledged application there. So what we see here is at the top we have an app bar having a text as a title. So that is the first app being specified here. And this center portion is called as the body portion. So we have specified the body, and within the body we have specified the text there. And then within the app bar we have just specified the title property. So what if we need to provide some other properties as well? Let's say we are going to specify one icon left to the first in this title. So as we have mentioned, that thing is called as the leading. And again, if you hover over to the leading, what it is expecting, the leading should be a widget there. So in the leading is mostly a certain type of icon. So we may place an icon as just write down the icon class, and within the icon you will specify one more thing, icons dot name of the icon. Let's say icons dot menu. Now what this will be doing is in the leading, so let's say first save and reload this app, and then again look at this particular app within the emulator. So again restart this one, and then and now you will see that there is certain type of a icon there, but it is right now not clickable there, so it must be a certain type of action there. But you here we are just mentioning here that the leading is this type of the icon which is before this particular title. When most obviously, or most of the times, what we do not have an icon here, but we have an icon button, so that we can, when we press that button, certain action should also be done. So we'll write it down leading as the icon button. So it is one of the widget there, and then within this icon button some other properties are there. So one of the property is the icon, and then we may say that icon is a new icon constructed from icons dot menu. So icon button, leading is icon button, where one of the property icon we are setting it as icon object, and then icons dot menu as one of the value that which icon should appear here. But when you hover over to the leading, you will see that it is expecting a widget there. And then when we hover over to the icon button, so icon button is having multiple properties there, key, icon size and color and so on. But here one more thing which is required to be mentioned here is, if we see this property icon, and before this one there is written required. Again there is one more property on praise that is again required, and other than these properties they are not required. This means that when we are defining an icon button, no matter how many properties we may specify, but two of the properties are required that are that should be provided anyhow, that is on praised and the icon. So we have already specified the icon property, we should also specify the on praised property there, otherwise that will give you an error, it will not be executing, because those required properties should be provided. As the icon button is a button, that's why it will display certain icon, and as it is a button, so it should do something whenever it is pressed there. So that's why one of the property called on praised will expect some of a function to be executed whenever that button is pressed. So we need to write down the name of that function that should be executed when it is pressed. So what we need to do, maybe somewhere in the code we need to write it down a function like void on click, and then we may write down some code here. So we have provided a function here, so on click, so we may write down on praised. On click means name of the function, so when we press this one, it should run this function, and when this function runs, it should do something here. So some code will be written here that will be executed when it is being pressed here. But sometimes what we do not write down much of the code here. So what we can do, instead of writing the function name, we can just write down that particular function all alone here, just in this particular form. So this particular form, if you see here, two round brackets and two curly brackets, this is called as the anonymous function. So again, in order to explain the anonymous function, let's see how do we create a function. Let's say uh, we'll write down the function as this one, and then the code will appear here. So this is, let's see, in this case this is the return type, this is the name of the function, these are two parameters there, and then the code will be here in these brackets. So what if we remove these things, we remove the name of the function, and maybe whether we remove it or not, it doesn't matter for the arguments. If we just remove the data return type and the name, but this function is now nameless. Nameless means a function having no name. So any entity having no name is called as anonymous. So this is a function having no name. So that's why it is called as the anonymous. So anonymous function could be written here instead of creating a function name, creating a function and providing the name of the function here. So it is saying that what are the arguments are here, we should provide it here, and all the code that will appear run, write it down here. So what we say that on praise, what should happen? Let's say we are saying it should print out on the console this particular string clicked and then semicolon. So this is one statement that should be executed whenever we call this particular function. So it is click there. So this is how we create an icon button there within the leading. So now again save it and restart this application and then see what happens. Again restart that one, not the reload, and then wait for it and see what changes appear whenever we have written this particular code. So now if you see here within this one, so this icon, if we see here now, we can click over it, and whenever we are clicking over it, you will see on this console this text is being displayed clicked and the exclamation sign. This is because we're executing this. So now this code is executed whenever this icon button is pressed there. So this is an icon button there. So this is the leading, this is the title. Now we may find some icons on this particular side as well. Now those icons are called as the actions. So these actions will be the icons on the right side there. Now what we should have in the action, now if we see one more thing here, when we hover over to the leading, it is expecting one widget, title, one widget there. But when we hover over to the actions, it is expecting the list of the widgets there. If we see here list of widgets, and then a semicolon is the, sorry, question mark is there. So that question mark is specifying that it is it is nullable, means it is not necessary to provide the value for this one, but if you provide it, it should be this data type. And if we see here title, so in this case it is saying that you need to provide a title. There's no any question mark, means if you need to provide, it should be there. But in case of the some other widgets there, just like the app bar, so preferred size widget question mark means that if you do not provide it, so it doesn't matter. But if you are providing it, it should be of this data type. Again, actions question mark nullable means it is not mandatory to provide this one. If you do not provide it, again nothing goes wrong there. But if you provide it, it should be of this data type, that is list of widgets, not a single widget here. So list of widget is created with the help of an array. So within the values we will have these two square brackets, and within these brackets we will specify multiple widgets with the help of the comma. Let's say we might have a widget 1 here, the widget 2 here, then comma, and then widget 3, and then so on, and all those widgets should be in these square brackets as an value to the action, as it is expecting a list of the widgets there. So this means actions could have multiple values there. So this is just for explanation. We will not be writing down as it is written widget 1, 2 or 3 there. But now what we may do, let's say just copy this icon button here. So this icon button, we are saying that actions are multiple icon buttons. Let's say first icon button, and we may just eliminate this code as well. We are not doing anything additional there, just actions. So one of the action is an icon button. With the icon, let's say we are having the search icon there, and on press we are doing nothing here, comma, and then again copy this one out and then place another icon. Let's say it is let's say thumbs up. Okay, thumbs up. Maybe we may have another, let's say thumbs down. There's another icon there. We may provide let's say Let's say there is one more icon called as more. So if you have seen that if certain menu is being if there are more items below that after that menu, so we can have expandable three dots there, so that is just specifying that you have more options here. Or we may have some specific type of the more option. It's a more horizontal, and we may have a more vertical as well as the three vertical dots. So if you see here, this icon, the three dots is specifying that there are more options to this particular icon. So this menu. So these are the three widgets we have specified as an array of the actions there. Now again, if we restart this particular application and see what happens to the user interface. Now the application has restarted, and now if you see here, the leading is the title, and these are the actions as the actions as the icon buttons on the right side. And we haven't specified where these buttons should be. They are by default on the right side. Title is here, leading is here, and the app bar itself is at the top. We are not defining where they should be, what should be the size of the app bar. So how it is getting or setting these different properties? It is because of this particular widget called as scaffold. So scaffold has defined that if you place an app bar where it should be, if you place the action buttons where they should be, that is specified in the scaffold. And if we see here, the text color is white here and the app bar background is blue here. So what should be the text size of this one, and what should be the color of these component, as we haven't specified? So these things will be inferred from this material app widget, the design widget there. So this is how we are defining certain attributes within the Flutter UI. One more thing within this body attribute, so in the body we are specifying this particular portion here. We just place the text, but it could be a nested type of the widget tree as well. So we may say that instead of the this direct text, what we may do is just cut it around and then place another widget that is called as the center. Okay, the center widget, and there is a property of the center called as the child, and then we provide this particular widget as the text widget as the child of the center. So once we provide that one, and then again restart this widget, and then what effect we are seeing, we will see here. If we place a center, so what it is doing, so it will center anything which is the child of itself. So what is the center? It's the text widget. Taking the text widget and placing it at the center there. So this is how we'll be placing some contents within the body. So if we have more contents, but the body will be having just one widget there. But if you are having more widgets to be placed within that body, so we will just nest them. We'll have a root widget there, within that one some other widget, within that one some other widget, or maybe collection of widgets there. So in nesting those widgets will result in generating a particular type of the user interface. Now, one more thing to mention here is there is one of the basic property of the Flutter, that is if we hover over to this button called is the hot reload and then hot restart. Now what happens whenever we write down the code and when we try to execute and build it, what happens that the code should be first compiled into the machine language, and the next time when we just make a small modification within the source code, what we need to do, we need to recompile that entire application. So within that, what will happen, it will take a lot of time in recompiling there, even for a very small amount of the change there. So in order to cut down that particular time there, what the Flutter offers is the hot reload and hot restart. So what happens that once we run the application, it is compiled, And when we just have a small modification there, so instead of compiling the entire app again from the starting, we just like this hot reload, then what will happen, only that particular slight portion of the UI will be recompiled and the rest will remain same intact there. So it will just save a lot of time while developing the application. So now in this case we have seen that the we haven't used this hot reload function because it will not work in this particular example. There is a reason behind that. The reason is the hot reload function will not be enabled uh, until we provide this root widget as a separate class there. So what we are doing here is within the run app, we need to provide a root widget, and the root widget we are just creating within this particular function there. So what we need to do is instead of just creating the widget inside this run app, we need to create another class that will be extending from stateless or the stateful widget there. Now in the Flutter, it is necessary to mention here that everything is a widget there. And the widgets are of two different types. One of the widgets are termed as the stateless widgets and others are the stateful widgets. Stateless widgets doesn't maintain any state and they remain static. Their different properties don't change during the course of the application being executed, while as the stateful widgets they maintain certain type of a state and they may change their state during the execution of the application. So just like if you see a checkbox there, so the checkbox is actually a stateful widget because when we click it the appearance changes, and when we click it again the appearance changes there. But how it come to know that if it is having a check mark there, then the user clicks there, it should disappear the check mark there. So it is maintaining certain type of the state in the form of variables. But if we see certain text label being displayed there, so nothing happens, no any state is being maintained there, so we'll go for the stateless. So concluding that one, what we need to go through is whenever we need to create the widgets, there are two type of the widget, stateful and stateless. And how do we create a stateful or a stateless widget? So just if we create a class that can extend from stateless widget class, that is a stateless class there, and same is the case for the stateful. When we extend it from the stateful class, so it will become a stateful widget there. So what we need to do is uh, outside this main function we create a class and then the name of the widget. Let's say in this case we are writing down the name as my app, and we write down extends, and then just we write down here state less widget. Now what happens here is we are creating a class with the name my app, and that is extending from stateless widget. So now this becomes a stateless widget there. And then whenever we are creating a stateless widget, it should contain one special method there called as the build method. When just type in build and click this one, you will see that we will have such type of the method, and we need to override this build method which is within the stateless widget there class. And what this method says, the name of the method is build, its return type is a widget there, and inside there there is a build context as an argument there. So this means that this particular function should return something here, and then that thing that it will be returning should be of type widget there. Now my app is a stateless widget as it is extending from this one. So whenever we create this widget my app, the custom widget, how it should appear, it is being defined by this build method. Whatsoever it will return here as a widget, that should appear, or that will be a look and feel of this particular my app there. So now instead of if we see here material app, so what if we do here is we remove all the material app here from here, and we need to be careful about these brackets. So material app, and what if we return this material app from here? Okay, so class my app extend is stateless widget, so this method, and then this method is returning the material app. Now what it specifies, we have created a my app custom widget as a stateless widget within the build method. So build method will specify how it will be built or how it will look there. So it is returning a material app as a root widget and everything around there. So material app is this complete widget there. So now my app is represented by this complete app, and then we may specify in the run app method. But one more thing to mention here is again let me undo this code. So instead of writing all these things by hand, we may have a certain shortcut in Visual Studio Code. If we need to create a stateless widget, so we just type in stl, and then we see that flutter stateless widget, this option. If you click this one, it will create the class by itself, and you just need to rename the name of the class. So again we have the same structure here, class my app extends stateless widget, and then this is one of the constructor that is being generated by this particular class by itself. The constructor has the same name as the class name, and then it is receiving the one argument as the key. So key is one of the unique attribute through which the Flutter UI user interface will recognize this particular widget, and it will differentiate it with some other widgets there. So it will be with the help of a key which is being generated by class itself, and it has a build method. Every stateless class has a build method that will define how this app will look like, and will be returning that particular component. So let's say now we just cut this particular material app from here, and we say return this particular widget. So return this particular widget from this build method. Okay, so now we have created a custom widget there. Now in order to provide that widget in the run app, what we need to do is create an object of this particular widget class there. So my app, and my app two brackets is specifying we're just creating an object of this widget. So now when the main function executes, we call a run app. So it needs an app, it needs a widget tree or the root of the widget that should be executed, and it is a my app class there. So what is a my app? It is another widget. So how it will look like, it will be defined by the build method. So now if we just save it out and reload this particular, restart this particular app, so again we will see after it is being executed that it will have the same look and feel there as previously, because we are not changing the user interface code, we have just changed the structure of the code here. So let's wait it around and until it is being restarted. So the application has restarted, and you see that nothing has changed in the user interface. Now one thing that has changed here is now in the run app, the widget that you're providing is created as a separate class there. Now if now we have compiled this code and it is being executed, and what if we need to change something here from let's say within this text widget, we are saying hello flutter. Instead of that we say hello 19cs, and then just control save. When we just control save it, so you see here reload it, so it is hot reloaded, and right away we will see that particular change is reflected within the running code there. Now this function is called as the hot reload. Now hot reload means when the application is already compiled and we need to have certain small modification in the code, we do not need to recompile it. We just it will recompile certain portion that is being changed, and then that will be reflected instantly without recompiling the entire app there. So now in the Flutter application, that hot reload function will only be enabled when we will create this widget tree as a separate class, whether it will extend from the stateless widget or it is extending from the state full widget there. So only in that case we will have a hot reload function there. But there is some other option called as the hot restart as well. So sometimes if there is a lot of modification done there within the code, so the hot reload will not work there. We will go for the hot restart. So it will somehow recompile more portion of the code as compared to the hot reload, but it will be again quite faster as recompiling the entire application there. So this is how we'll be running and configuring our application in the Flutter. So most of the Flutter applications have a similar type of the flow, how we structure that one out. So if you understand all these components here, so most of the applications will be having such type of the structure.